What you gonna do if you run into Aquaman?
Buddy Logan Paulsen out there. You gotta let him know Fred Smoot misses him.
I think he's out getting a workout in, but I'll find him.
Logan, how you feeling, bro?
Tell us what you really doing.
Fred, I'm working out here, man.
Commanders family, it's Combine Week, and we have plenty in store for you as we gear up for the 2025 NFL Draft. The prospect professor, Logan Paulsen, is out in Indianapolis giving you the latest on this year's draft prospects. Plus, head coach Dan Quinn joins us for the first time after the Commanders' thrilling 2024 season. We get into it with him. He talks about what it means to be a Commander. And then we hear from General Manager Adam Peters, who is also out in Indy. And Commanders family, it all starts right now. It's Combine Week out in Indianapolis, where NFL prospects from around the country look to showcase their skills. With the draft just over 2 months away, the Commanders' general manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn are out at Lucas Oil Stadium searching for the next class of Commanders. Welcome into Command Center. Brian Colbert Jr. here with Santana Moss, Fred Smoot. Fred, we're a man down. We're missing your best friend, Logan Paulsen, but he is out in the combine because he is our prospect professor, right, Fred?
Not really.
I want to hear that. Well, he is out there in the combine now. Y'all two did not work out of the combine. However, in y'all's careers, you guys did go and you guys made an impact. When you're going to the combine as a young player, how do you stand out and what are your goals for these teams when they're looking at you?
Well, first of all, it's a privilege to be a part of that 219 to 20 players that get to go there.
For sure.
And I think when you go there, I think we all come in differently. Like if you already slotted to be a part of that first 45, you got decisions to make. And how much stuff am I going to do when they're here? And that's just the physical part, because you're going to do the medical part. When you land, our first 24 hours is in the hospital. That's what people need to understand. So you need to get clear to all of your medical work. Then it's about the interviews. It's about you one-on-one with the team owner, with the position coach and the head coach. So that is very important. And that's what we kind of took in it. We took the medical and we took the mental and did it, and we let the physical happen at our pro day at our school.
Yeah, I think my thing was, Fred hit it on the head. I was more taking advantage of the privilege of being one of those guys selected to be there. But then after that, I didn't have no expectations of what to expect. I didn't even have nothing in my head of saying how I should be received, because I'm just one of these guys just like anybody else. When it comes to the combine, scratch what you did during the season. Now it's time to perform and show us what you worth, you know what I mean? And so with that being said, I knew, hey, I'm coming here to do my interviews. I'm finna show you the young man I am. And all that other stuff you want to do, we can do that back home at the crib.
Santana, I could not imagine what a young Fred was like in those interviews. I had to imagine you wilding. We'll talk about it a little later.
I was being genuinely myself. And that's what they want. They're there to get to know you as a person. And the one thing about it is they've done so much investigation on you. If you're already there, now they want to see, is it what we heard? And I think it was.
Fred was in real form.
I'm about to say, Fred, I'm sure your reputation superseded itself. And you know what? We're going to be talking about all things combine and what we are looking for, talking different prospects. Before we do anything else, let's send it to our guy, Logan Paulsen, because, again, he is out on the combine, feet on the ground. Logan, how you feeling, bro?
Tell us what you're really doing.
It's time for Draft Insights, powered by Microsoft Copilot. Logan, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. And Fred, I'm working out here, man. That's what I'm here. I'm coming to the combine to do work, and you know who else is doing work out here? The Washington Commanders. And what I love is hearing Dan Quinn in his press conference talk about how they're looking for commanders, not players. And I love that he made that distinction, because we want guys that fit our culture. And there's really no better opportunity than the combine to find guys that fit your culture. People talk about the 40, the 5, 10, 5, the vertical jump, the broad jump. The most valuable asset is the meeting, understanding what this guy is. And Dan Quinn in his presser talked about what is your why. And I think that is so incredibly critical, because now I understand, hey, we can coach you hard. You want to be better. You want to get better. You're a motivated person who loves football. That all comes out in those meetings. And Adam Peters said something similar, and I love how they're on the same page all the time, and I love how they're looking to identify people that fit this culture. You want to build a strong culture, you got to bring the right people in. However, we're also here for the data, right? We got vertical jump, broad jump, 5, 10, 5, 40-yard dash. We got arm length. We got weights. And it's so much information to aggregate and kind of bring together. But Microsoft Copilot does a great job of that, man. You can get arm length. I can search by arm length, by weight, and I can look at today, the defensive line measured in today. James Pierce Jr., who's maybe one of the most explosive players in this draft, measured in only 32-inch arms, a little bit below threshold, But now, tomorrow, or today, when he runs his 40-yard dash, I can look at it and say, oh, man, he's got one of the best 40s in the class because of this Copilot. I don't have to get in there with a pen and paper anymore and write it all down and what's the time, did I miss it on the thing? It's in here. It's real-time updated. It's a fantastic tool to compare these athletes one-to-one, which is what the Combine is all about. And we talk about the on-field work in addition to the explosive measurement stuff, the 40s, all that stuff. This is a great time to see how explosive these guys are when they're doing football drills, when they're running around, hitting the bags as pass rushers, when they're dropping into coverage as DBs, how flexible, how explosive these guys are. I mean, that's the thing that's so special. That's the thing that got me into the draft and the Combine in the first place, was being able to see the most explosive athletes in the world, the next kind of iteration, next generation of the NFL Combine, or of the NFL here at the Combine. I mean, it's a special opportunity, you know. And then again, we talk about being able to compare guys one-to-one, guys that could be commanders that could be there at 29 when Washington's picking. And I look at offensive linemen like Connerly, like Belton, like some of these guys that are just really big, awesome football players. And you kind of say, oh, how do they move one after another? How does this pass set look? How do they open their hips? What's their conditioning look like? Those are the moments with the offensive line, with the defensive line, where you say, hey, these guys are – this is the biggest job interview of their lives, right? Are they ready? Are they ready for these opportunities? Have they kind of taken care of business? And I love seeing guys knock this event out of the park, right? Then you say, okay, what else we got? We got 40. I mean, that's the marquee event, and I don't want to poo-poo that. I want to give it its credit. It's one of the most important things at the Combine because it can make or break a guy's really pre-draft process. And I look at a guy like Luther Burton III, who was explosive, dynamic playmaker in 2023, fell off a little bit in 2024. He has an opportunity to come in today and say, man, I'm the same guy that you saw in 2023. And I think about him compared with a guy like Terry McLaurin, if he were to slide a little bit and be that explosive playmaker opposite of the dog, Terry McLaurin, the captain, Terry McLaurin. So this is a great opportunity, again, to find the future commanders. Love how Dan Quinn articulated that and spread that out. But that's it for me. I'm going to watch all the drills. We're going to get in there. I'm going to take all the notes. I'm going to use my tablet here, use the Copilot to help me with this information. And Fred, maybe one day when you get that promotion to the assistant draft analyst, then you can get one of these. This is big time stuff, Fred. I know you like the data too. But Brian, thanks, man. Back to you.
Now here's a look at the rest of the schedule from out in Indy. This is our Combine schedule. Earlier today, the defensive linemen and the linebackers got to work out. Tomorrow, the defensive backs and the tight ends. Then on Saturday, it'll be the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and the running backs. Should be a very fun day. And then Sunday, we'll end it with the offensive line. You can catch all of these workouts on NFL Network or stream them on NFL Plus. Now, joining us from out in Indy is our fearless leader, head coach Dan Quinn. It's time for Best Seat in the House, presented by SeatGeek. The most disruptive idea in ticketing, a ticket that works. Expect the expected. SeatGeek.
Welcoming in head coach Dan Quinn, who is out in Indy at the Combine. Coach, how are you doing? Thanks for being here with us.
Hey, Bri, we're doing great, man. It's such a cool way to start, in a way, the off season. I know the league year is a way to start, but also here, this is a big pace to it too, to get our first look at some of the guys that could be some of our commanders.
And Coach, we got to spend a ton of time together on the game plan, talking before each and every game. But now, I know you don't like looking forward, but now I think we can look forward and look back a little bit. When you look back at your 2024 season, now that you've had a time to reflect, what do you feel about it, man? How happy are you with how the first season in Burgundy and Gold went?
You know, it was good standing here a year ago. I didn't know what I didn't know about our team. I hadn't even met them yet. I'd watched them on tape, and we'd had a sense of what it could be. But now, a whole year later, for Adam and I, man, we know exactly what a commander is. So a year ago, we had a vision of what we wanted it to look like. But now, a year later, man, we know exactly what that is. And it makes this process, Brian, so important because we're so clear on the types of guys that will do well with us. And so we loved our rookie class from last year, and man, they've made impactful and meaningful roles, and we look to add to that crew starting here this week.
And Coach, you guys knocked it out the park with your 2024 draft class. And you mentioned, we know what a commander is now. Can you give us some of those characteristics that you're looking for out of that combine? At
the very top of the pile, man, that's an absolute relentless competitor. We're looking for what's going on behind the rib cage, a guy that's just not wanting to be denied. The type of connection that we're looking for here is somebody that loves ball so much and their teammates, they're willing to do the extra, to do the things. But at the end of it, man, just like the finishing, the play style, the attitude, it's not for everybody, but our play style, the effort, the toughness, that's what we stand for. That's how we get down. And that's the type of players that we're going to be looking for.
And Coach, I don't know if I've met anybody that loves the game of football truly more than you. You could be anywhere right now, you're a very busy man, but you have your feet on the ground at the combine. Why is it so important for you to be out there physically and seeing these prospects?
Man, I need to know a little bit about their why. And so that's why this part of being here, going through the interviews with them, man, I need to know their background, you know, what they stand for, what are some things in their life that have provided some of the resilience about how they can play this game at this level. So for these guys to be here, man, that's such a big deal. And man, like I admire how hard you can tell some of these guys are going for it, how important it is. And those are the things that the traits on the field, but the off the field things that we're looking for. And it's awesome, man. I love this part. And it's so important. Every interaction, every person that we potentially bring on to the team, like what a huge responsibility that is to the locker room, saying, hey man, we know this guy stands for the things you do. And once they're in our bloodstream, we want to make sure we're bringing the people that absolutely are going to go for it together. That's really important. We take that responsibility seriously.
And Coach, last year this time, it was so much fun because we all got to watch you and AP for the first time collaborate, not only in free agency, but also in the draft. Now you get to run it back, do it for a second year. What makes you most excited about being able to have that collaboration process again with a guy like Adam Peters?
Got a remarkable process that he goes through, I think, and we remiss these two staffs and the bond from personnel and scouting staff, coaching staff. That's so important because we're scouting for our team, not for the NFL. What guys fit us the best, and that's not one size fits all. And so for the scouts to know what we're exactly looking for, that's so important. I thought Adam and his staff have done a good job not missing one step along the way and providing what the team needs to be successful. So that starts right from Josh, and then through Adam and myself and the staff, that's our job to make that come to life.
Coach, after what you guys did last year, I think all of us are so excited to see what you guys can accomplish this year, especially in the 2025 NFL Draft. Coach, thank you so much for your time. Man, you out there, you got our buddy Logan Paulsen out there. You got to let him know Fred Smoot misses him.
I think he's out getting a workout in, but I'll find him. I'm sure he's getting in the bench, but we'll see if he can still get over 25.
Coach, I got no doubt you can get over 25. Coach, you have fun out there in Indy. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thanks, boss.
Now, Quinn and Peters are gearing up for their second draft together in the burgundy and gold. Washington's 2024 draft class, headlined by quarterback Jaden Daniels, had multiple impact players from the first round all the way to the 7th. 8 players from the 2024 draft class started at least one game. Daniels, defensive tackle Johnny Newton, cornerback Mike Sandersill, offensive tackle Brandon Coleman, each started at least 11 games. Now, the search begins for the Commanders' 2025 draft class, so let's take a look at the draft capital for Quinn and AP this year. It's time for your winning numbers presented by the Maryland Lottery. Please play responsibly. Now, let's take a look at the Commanders draft picks that they have in the 2025 NFL Draft. You see in round 1, we have the 29th pick, very different than number 2 last year. We have a 2nd, a 3rd, a 5th, and then 3 7th round picks. A lot of draft capital for Adam Peters and company to play with. Now, let's dive further into this 2025 draft. Time to secure the W, presented by Hercules Fence. Security in every job. Now, we saw all of those picks. We know what AP can do.
Yeah.
He looked really good last year. Can't wait to see him this year. Fred, how do we secure a W in this year's draft?
Hashtag let grandma cook. Right? That's what I said last offseason. Be patient with him. And see, what I learned from last year's draft with Sarah Steele and JD5 and the rest of these guys, they're not going there for the best athlete. They're going there for the best people. Yes. They are going there trying to find commanders. They're not going there trying to find draft picks. So they got a certain type of guy that they want. So they're going to go to this combine and actually get more done in the interviewing process than they are in the measurements. So they understand the recipe of the type guy that they want. And I think Adam Peters understands what type guys he want to add to this locker room because he said it when he got the job. I really want to be on this team through the draft.
Yeah. I think some of the things that we saw them do last year is the same thing they need to do this year. When we was up there in Detroit, it seemed like every time we was up, we had a guy in mind or a position in mind.
Yeah.
And whether we got the guy right or not, they picked up that position. So it's all about getting what you need. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how you secure it. That's how you win, by saying this is where we weak at. This is what we're gonna need more depth. This is where we're gonna need a stellar guy for this particular, round or whatever it may be. And so to me, like when you're talking about where's our needy areas at, you talking about the trenches. If you ask me, I'm always talking about the trenches.
Always.
And you probably wonder why. Like, you're a receiver, telling white, because if I don't have the guys to block or protect,
Don't matter how fast he
I
is.
can't get the ball. You see what I'm saying? And then the same vice versa. Defense, if I don't got the guys to get after the ball, we can't get the ball offensively. So I say the trenches is where we're probably going to need to be probably getting some of our media guys at. But who knows, man? We have some needy areas, and I know these guys are going to be sharp when it comes to picking.
Think about it. We have the measuring stick, the Super Bowl measuring stick in our division.
Yeah,
we
we do.
understand where we compare to them right now, where they are better than us at, and that's trench warfare. When we won the Super Bowls here, we won trench warfare. We had the Hogs on one side, we had Dexter Manley and Charles Mann on the other side. If you don't win that part of the game, you don't win championships.
Yeah.
And Fred, it's pretty rare for a GM to go from having the number 2 pick all the way
To
down
29.
to the number 29 pick. Now, it's different when you up at the
27
top.
picks. Yeah.
Everybody kind of knew where we were going to go with it. We are at 29.
Yeah.
A lot of things can change.
Yeah.
Fred, can you put into words how difficult it is to be in this position now? Because last year, number 2, you kind of know
That's
where you're
easy,
going.
right?
29 is really hard to tell.
It's a privilege to be 29.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
let's start right there. They earned the right to pick 29. So the thing about it is, now he has to reset that strategy. All right, you started something last year. Now you're finna add and put additions on to this thing. So just look at it as a car. All right, we got the car last year. Now we finna put some rims on it.
Yeah.
All right, now we're finna go get the accessories that we need to add to this thing. And I don't think he has no room in particular that he's looking at. I think it's one best player available, and he actually wants to add at least one person, and that's through free agency, our draft, to each room.
And that's what's really impressive about this here draft class, because you have position groups that really stand out where there's a lot of depth there, where you got guys that you can get on day 3 and they can make an impact 10. And when you look at this draft class, what position groups stand out to you?
Far as just us going after?
No, just position groups in general,
Fred done said it already, the running back room.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
It's a lot of
It's
running backs.
ridiculous.
And I don't know the numbers, but I can just tell from just what I saw play-wise watching college football this year. There's a lot of guys with talent. Talk about the kid from Richmond who played at Ohio State.
Trayvon Henderson.
Come on over here, Henderson. I would love to see a guy like that kind of be in that room with B-Rob and those guys. But I think that room stands out the most, and the receivers too.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the receivers, it's not no godly names, like not no names like the running
Malik
back.
Neighbors, I know the Marvin Harrison.
But it's some guys that went out there and played ball, especially that kid in Arizona. Like, somebody's going to get a nice big target, and that kid, whoever gets him in the first round, I'm pretty sure he's a first-round talent. So it's going to be interesting, but I think the running back position is going to basically come in this thing knocking down that door that they try to put up on these running backs, because it's, man, bro, I'm a receiver, and I'm going to always vouch for the running backs. I played on run-dominant teams throughout my whole career. You know what I mean? We ran the ball first. You need a run game. I don't care what you say. You need a run game. Whether you do it by committee or not, you need a run game.
What they have shown you in the NFL, if you got the rest of the team ready and you put a good running back to great running back back there, it hyper boosts the team. It hyper boosts the offense. It takes it to a whole nother level. It gives you your choice of how can I dictate a game. And you right, Trayvon Henderson, a Virginia native, is good. His running mate, Quinson Junkins, he is a baller. You got J.J. Giddens from Kansas. You get, like, when I say 25 to 30 deep when it comes to the running back room, and don't forget the tight end group. All right, love line. It's guys everywhere. But I have to go to the U with one I really do, like Aurora. I really do like him. He's different than the rest of the guys in here. He's the oddity out the group. So if I had to say the deepest positions would be running back, would be tight end, and would be defensive line, and I mean defensive tackles, not so much the edge.
And Fred, when you look at that, right? Let's wrap it up real quick. What positions do you think you would like to bring into this house? When we're looking at this draft, looking at this combine, what position are you looking for? You say, you know what? These position groups can help us out.
Well, I want the guys that smell like bacons. I want boar's head. I want to go get the beef. Like, at the end of the day, I want an offensive line that's part of a moving company. Maybe 2 guys in a truck. All I want them to do is move people. And on the defensive line, it's only one way to beat a quarterback with a great team and make sure his jersey is dirty. We just seen what Patrick Mahomes went through in the Super Bowl.
And you know what? We asked all of our commanders
Command Center guys. Their top 5 position groups that they want to see. Let's check that out real quick. Great job, fella. It's time for Top 5, presented by UA Local 5 Plumbers, protecting the health of the nation's capital since 1890. Now, here's a look at the top 5 position groups our analysts will be watching throughout this draft season, including the Combine this week. Fred and Santana just mentioned the trenches. That's right, both the offensive and defensive lines. Additionally, the crew will be watching defensive backs throughout this draft season. You saw we knocked it out the park with Mikey Sandersill. And lastly, the pass catchers, including both wide receivers and tight ends. Gotta get Jaden Daniels some new weapons. Plenty of decisions to be made in this year's draft for all 32 teams around the league. Now let's hear what General Manager Adam Peters had to say this week out at the Combine. It's time for your can't miss moment, presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the Washington Commanders.
I think every team has those guidelines. I think just about all 32 teams have that, like a kind of a standard for what they want at each position, but there's always exceptions, and you know, when you stray from that, it just depends on the position, the person, the player, and everything like that. I think a great example of that is Mikey Sandersill last year, who I think as a corner, obviously you want, you know, a 6'2" corner who's quick as a cat and runs a 4.3, and but those guys don't really exist unless you're like top 5 pick of the draft. So a guy like Mikey defies those standards and plays bigger than he is, and so he's one example. But there's thousands of examples around the NFL of guys that don't fit in those parameters but are still excellent. And I think you hit it right on, and that was one of the coolest things when we were going through this process last year, when I really got to know DQ and we saw everything. You know, kind of, we're really aligned on everything, and that is a big thing for us, and finding the right people, and that's not just players, that's you know, support staff, coaches, everybody. So that's always going to be at the core of what we do. And I've been a part of teams that when you start sacrificing that, then it usually doesn't work. And so, you know, we've set out and really, I think what's really cool is in our exit interviews this year, we talked to a lot of players, and one of the biggest things that they hit on was we liked all the people you brought in, the players and the commanders and the competitors, and so don't lose sight of that. So we heard that from our players, we felt it ourselves, so that's always going to be at the core of what we do, and I mean, there may be an exception here or there, or you make a mistake, and you know, that not on purpose, but that's going to always be at the core of what we do.
Shout out to our general manager, Adam Peters, out at the Combine. Now, if you want more Combine talk, don't worry about it. We are bringing you content straight from the Combine all week long. Mondays, we have the Ticket to the Draft, but today, a special drops of Ticket to the Draft, and they'll have a special each day until Sunday from out at the Combine, so make sure you tune into that. Then Wednesdays, we have the award-winning CC Pod, the Command Center podcast with Logan Paulsen, Fred Smoot, and Santana Moss. Then Thursdays, of course, the flagship show, Command Center. We got some special stuff on the way for that. Then Get Loud has a new home. It'll air on Fridays. That's Mike Jenks and Fred Smoot getting loud like they love to do. I promise you will not want to miss the Command Center content we have for you all week long. Tune in on the Commanders YouTube page or stream wherever you get your podcasts. All right, fellas, before we go, we talking Combines now. Again, I said at the start of the show, y'all did not work out at the Combine. However, you guys were there and y'all made y'all presence felt. My favorite Combine story I've heard recently, Gruden talking about when he met you. What'd you say to Gruden when he met you during your interview?
The one thing I like about Gruden, he was high energy and not as serious as the rest of the coaches there. So when he set you down, he really wants you to feel comfortable to open up with him. So he like, come on in, Freddie Smoot, I know all about you. And then he come back and he like, well, I heard the saying you got talking about 70% of the world is covered by water and the rest by you. What you gonna do if you run into Aquaman? I said, I ain't worried about none of that, coach. All you need to do is draft the best corner in this draft. I lose out on the chance to do it. So I loved his way of doing it. So then I went to Bill Cowher, who was just chewing his gum, serious, but not all serious. So and plus he had just coached me in the Senior Bowl, so I had already had a rapport with him, and he just chewing his gum, a little spit coming down. So Freddie Smoot, what can you do for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the city of Pittsburgh? So I enjoyed the intimacy of the questions they would ask us in those situations, and the different personalities of the coaches. Because after Bill Cowher, it was Bill Belichick. No nonsense, straight to the point, straight to the facts, want to know every little thing about you. So I enjoyed learning more about the NFL than they was learning about me.
Did it change your approach? Like when you got a guy like Bill Belichick, who's a little different than Gruden, right? Did that change your approach?
No, I was still in there smiling. This is who I am. I'm not going to change.
You ever gonna change?
Yeah, I'm not going to change. And I think he appreciated that. But I'm here for all business. But if they didn't did their homework on me, they know who I am and they know my personality.
So being yourself is something you would recommend to the young prospects.
Be authentic. Always be yourself, because you can't hide it.
Yeah, you gotta be yourself.
Now, Teddy, you're very different than Fred. You don't come at us, you don't loud. But what was it like for you? What are those memories that
So
stick
I don't
out?
have no fun stories. I think the one thing that stood out is just the guys itself. I remember standing in that line and everybody finally meeting each other for a chance when we getting ready to what we call it the meat market or whatever you want to call it, when you out there in your boxer shorts and your shirt off.
Yes.
That was like one of those moments. But then until when I got on that stage and now you got these guys measuring you.
Yeah.
I remember this one guy. He was, man, it's crazy because I grew up a 49er fan. Diehard 49er fan. And this guy was from San Fran. So I lit up just to see him measuring me.
Yeah.
But then he just talked so much smack to me. Like, if you ain't working out here, you ain't gonna see me. I ain't coming to your pro day. I said, well, you gonna miss out.
Yeah.
You gonna miss out on the show.
Yeah.
And what was so crazy is fast forward to my pro day, he the first person walked in the door.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, you come see the show. Man, the man talked so much. I mean, like, I don't know if he was just designed or they told him, give him a hard time.
Yeah.
See how he is under pressure.
See how I respond.
He just gave me a hard time. It was nothing that I did or that I had previously did that he gave me credit for. Like, we had this board at the University of Miami. When you walk into our weight room, it just shows you all the guys that tops of they, they position. And I was at top at the 40. I was at top at the vertical, top at the L drill and the 5'10" shuttle. And he was like, oh yeah, I got to see all it. Like, this give me the hardest time. So that stood out. So when I performed that day and I ran that 4.2 and I quit and I told him I ain't doing nothing, it was because of him. I wanted to make sure I rubbed it in him. Well, you ain't gonna see me run routes until another 30 days. So you come back again. And he was pissed off.
Tanner stays with that motivation. Fellas, we appreciate y'all because y'all insights really highlight how important this is for these young fellas, how important this combine process is, the evaluation process. Shout out to Logan Paulsen for being out there, flying all the way out there. Shout out to Jason Johnson for producing them out there. Shout out to Fred Smoot for holding it down without his boy. We know you miss Logan Paulsen.
I am the real draft guru right here.
We're glad you stuck here with us and didn't go out to the combine. Shout out to the Santana Moss. And for Brian Colbert Jr., this is Command Center. Now, next week, we have something very special for y'all. We are recapping the best moments from our offense and the best moments from our defense. So make sure you stay tuned on the Commanders YouTube page for Command Center. We out this thing.
Best year ever.